Okay then, there are only two people, but okay. Let's start now. Others may or may not join. So today is the last day, week 12 of the Joy of Computing using Python courses, this tutorial. And yeah, we'll be just solving some basic problems based on the week 12's lecture on PageRank algorithm and also some basic Python programs. We'll get to it. Okay. So anytime if you have any doubts or questions, you can raise your hand or type it in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and ask. Okay. So let's start with the first question. So something very simple, but basics of Python. So what do you think will be the output of the following code? So we have a string. It's called word, but it's a string of us saying hey there, and we are printing, say, a list. We are converting this string to a list and then we are printing it. So what do you think will be the output? So Jigasha or Rakesh, if you know the answer, you can type it in the chat. Okay, no answers. Okay. Yeah, so it's actually very simple. So whenever we so you have to understand that in Python there is this data type called iterators, like any data type which you can iterate. Say you can go like 0 1 2 3 4, you can index it, right? So any kind of data type like string, list, a dictionary, anything that you can index like that and iterate, when you convert it to a list, it automatically like takes the first element and puts it as the first element of the list and so on. So a string here is a iterator. So what it will just do when you convert it to a list is just uh, it will just take the first character and it will like put it as the first element of the list. Then the second element of the list will be E, then Y, then space, and so on. So we'll have a list with each of these characters as a separate element. So we can test it out. Let's test it out and see. So suppose we have this word, something like say hey there, and then if we convert it to a list, we'll have yeah, you can see that we have each character as a single element in this list. Okay, so this will come in handy in future. And yeah, if you have to quickly, for example, separate out the letters of the of some word or some string, then this is the quickest way to do it. Okay, let's go to the second question. Okay, so second question is so what is the difference between directed and an undirected graph? So this is more of a theoretical question, not a Python question per se, but yeah, so let me just tell the answer. So in an undirected graph, what you understand is like there will be these nodes, some circles that you draw, some nodes, and there will be some edges between the nodes, which are the connections between the nodes, which can represent some relation or some kind of connection between the nodes. For example, in a social media, for example, say Facebook, the nodes will be individual people, and the connections will be if they are a friend or not, right? So if I am a friend of another person, then they are also a friend of me, and so these are two nodes will have a edge between them. So this is kind of like an undirected graph. So now what is a directed graph? Directed graph is the same thing. There will be connection, there will be nodes, and there will be edges connecting the nodes. But along with that, the additional factor is there is that these edges will be directed. Like the edges will go from only one node to another node, and not necessarily from another node to the previous node. So for example, we have two nodes, say A and B. So we may have an edge from A to B, but not necessarily from B to A. We may or may not have a reverse edge. So for example, if you think about, say, Twitter, okay, or even say YouTube. So in YouTube you have these or say Twitter, you have these persons which are the nodes. But if I follow you, then it does not necessarily mean that you also will follow me. So it is like a directed edge, so the relationship goes only one way. And if we are friends, then there will be edge in both directions, but that will be counted as two separate edges, not one, as in an undirected graph. Okay, so some theory. So next question. So in this week's lecture, we learned the PageRank algorithm. So with respect to that, there are these three questions, again theoretical. So what do you think is the sink? So when we are talking about the PageRank algorithm that Google uses, so what do you think is the sink? So the sink is actually any node that does not have any outgoing edges. So once you reach a sink node, you cannot go out from there. Okay. And so for example, with respect to, say, how Google works, say with web pages, so a web page that does not link to any other web pages, so it does not have any, say, hyperlinks in the page, so that is called a sink node. So you cannot directly click a link on that page and go to another page, so that is a sink node. But then again, so second question is with respect to that. So what should we do when we encounter a sink node? Okay, so when we reach a sink node, we cannot really traverse from there, right? So we cannot click a link and go to another web page. So what do we do when we reach a sink? So in the PageRank algorithm, what we do is we just randomly choose one of the nodes that are there, and we randomly hop to that node. So it's also called teleportation or jumping. So once we reach a sink node, we will randomly jump to another node, because we cannot go out from a sink. Okay. And yeah, the third question is, so the leader, so the PageRank algorithm is used to rank pages, as the name suggests. So how will you decide who is the leader, who will be on top? So that is decided by, basically, the algorithm is that so you have this random walker which goes from one page to another page, right? And then the page that is visited the most number of times is the leader at the end, like and the page that is visited the second most number of times, that will be the second on the list, and so on and so forth, right? So this is how PageRank works, basically. Any questions? Okay, then let's move on to the next question. So now we have some programming questions. Let's some easy ones only. This is the last week, nothing much difficult remaining. So yeah, so suppose we have integer, given an integer 1 2 3 4 5, and we want to reverse that integer. So we want to have 5 4 3 2 1, right? So how do we do that? So so I'll do it first in the, if you are doing it in, say, some other language, say if you're doing it in C, so how would you do it programmatically? Or if you don't know the shortcut to it in Python, then if you're just learning Python, then how would you do it? So I will do it first that way, and then we'll look at the shortcut in Python, right? Okay. So suppose so we have input as input, say we have 1 2 3 4 5, and we want to output the reverse, right? uh, 5 4 3 2 1, right? And these are integers, these are not strings. So if you want to work with strings, sorry, if you want to work with integers, so suppose let's say we have inp, or so let's say n equals to 1 2 3 4 5, and we want to write some function reverse rev int, which takes a number and returns something, okay. And let's just print rev int. Okay, so what do we do here? So in here, what do we do is first we extract out 1 by 1 digits, and then we basically add it to a new number, right? So we extract out the ones place digit. So for example, we first take out 5 and then we store it in a result. Then we take out 4, and then whatever the result that was, we multiply the result by 10, and then we add 4, right? So we will get 54 in that manner. Then we take out 3, and then we multiply 54 by 10, so we have 540 plus 3, that is 543, right? Then we take out 2, and we multiply 543 by 10 and then add 2, so we'll have 5432, and same for 1. So what we shall do here is let's start with let's say a result equals to 0 initially, and we'll return the result at the end. Okay, and what do we do here? We'll loop till n is say greater than 0. Okay, and so at each iteration of the loop, we'll first extract out the ones place digit. So we have done it multiple times already. So let's call it dig equals to n mod 10. So what this does is it gives us a remainder when we divide n by 10, and when we divide n by 10, the remainder is always the ones place digit. Okay, so that is what we store inside dig. And then we, like I said, so we multiply res by let's just do it this way, res into 10 plus digit, right? And we also let's call it digit, why not? And then what we do, finally we'll remove the last digit from the number n, so that we just do by dividing the number by 10. No, this will not work, this will work. So the difference is that single slash in Python means will give you a fractional number, but if you use 2 slashes, that will give you an integer number, right? So suppose we do 13 by 10, we get 1.3. If we do 13 divided by 10, then we get 1. Okay, so here we want to discard the remainder, the fractional portion. We just want to keep the integer portion. Okay, and I think that's it. Let's see how our code works. So yeah, so you can see the input was 1 2 3 4 5, and the result is 5 4 3 2 1. So our code works. Not very difficult, but we can do better, obviously. So any doubts about this approach? Okay. Okay, so in Python we can do much better than this. We can do it in a much faster way. So I'll just do it here in below. So suppose we again have n equals to 1 2 3 4 5. So what we can do here is just we can just convert it to a string and reverse it, and then convert it to an integer again. So we can do that in one line basically. So we'll convert let's go one step at a time. So we'll convert n to a string, right? And then we'll reverse it. So to reverse a string, we do : :( -1. That means we start from the start from the end, you go, like you start from the start, you go till the end, and you go in negative steps, right? So you reverse it. So this will give us a reverse string, and then we can convert this whole thing into an integer again, right? And then we print it. So one step at a time, but you can see that it is just one line. So if we just run it, so you can see it again gives us 5 4 3 2 1, and in just one line. So that's the beauty of Python. So any doubts about this? Okay. Okay, then if you have any doubt, just unmute yourself and ask me. Let's move on to the next question. Yes. So suppose we are given a list of strings. So we have to write a program to sort the list of strings based on the last character of each string. So if you just call sort on a list of strings, it will sort according to the first letter, then the second letter, then the third letter. So like in a dictionary, right? So how words are arranged in a dictionary, if you just call sort, it will arrange the strings in that way. But as you can see that we want to do it in the reverse, right? So we want to do it from the end. So as you can see that Piyush has H, so H is coming first, then T is coming, then V is coming, right? So how do we do it? So again, in Python, not very difficult. So obviously we can do it the long way in normal coding, but let's not go there. It will be quite longer. Let's just look at the how we do it in Python quickly. So this is just a second. Okay, better. So we have this list L with these names, right? So now what do we do? If we just call L dot sort and then we print L, what we get is you can see that Achit comes first because A is obviously comes first, then Piyush, then Vaibhav. But we don't want it this manner. We want it in this format, right? So to do this, we just need to specify a key here. A key. The key will be we have to give a function which will denote. So given an element, what are we looking at? So if you have an element of the list, what are we looking at? So by default it will look at the first character, right? But we want to look at the last character. So we have to pass a function like that. So let's define a function, say define last, let's just call it last ch maybe. Okay. Or you can think of it as like yeah, we are just not looking at the last character, but we are actually looking at the characters in reverse order, right? So if the last characters match, then we'll look at the second last character, right? So it's like opposite of a dictionary, right? So let's not call it last ch, let's call it reverse ch. Okay. And so what this will do is it will just take an element of the list and it will return it in reverse format. Reverse. We know that element is a string, so we can just do this to reverse it, right? And here we will pass this rev ch. So you might be thinking, why did we not just do a reverse like this, something like this over here? So we cannot do that here. We need to provide a function over here. Okay. So this is a function that we have written to reverse the characters. Okay, and here we are using that to sort. So if we run this now, you can see that we now get the desired order. So but we can do it in a slightly shorter way, which is instead of writing a function, we can use a lambda function. So a lambda function is similar to a normal function, but it's like you don't give a name to a function. It's like when you have to just specify a function somewhere, one line, then you can just use a lambda function. So what lambda function does is it lambda just means that I'm defining a function, but I'm not giving it any name. You just take this function and do whatever you want. I'm not calling it anything. It's like a one-time use function, you can say. So first you have to write lambda, obviously. That means it's a lambda function. Then you have to specify what are the arguments. So arguments we had e, right? Let's just bring back the function, then we can compare it side by side, and then we'll remove it. So lambda, right? Okay. So now we have, what parameters do we have? So here we have only one parameter, which is the element e. So we take e and then a colon. That means we are starting the function. So inside the function, what do? We just return this part, right? So we'll just copy paste it here. So and that's it. Okay. So this is a function, lambda function. It's a function that takes a parameter e and it returns this part, which is basically the reverse of the element e. And now you can see that it's basically the same thing. We just took the parameters and what we are returning. Let's now remove this, and now let's run it. And now you can see that we are getting the same results. Okay. So that's the good thing about lambda functions. Okay. Any doubts? Else we'll move on to the next question. Okay, let's yeah, next question. Okay, so the next question is so we have to write a program that accepts a hash separated sequence of words as inputs and prints the word in a hash separated sequence again after sorting them alphabetically in reverse order. Okay, so this is basically a very simple. We just have to sort, but we don't have a list of strings. We just have one string which is separated by hashes, and then we have to just sort it in reverse order, like yeah, so reverse alphabetical order. Okay. Okay, so here we have let's just take this input, something like this, s equals to this. Okay, so to convert it to a list of strings, say hey input and by, so that we can sort it, we'll just do s dot split. So what split does is it splits basically the string into multiple, and we can specify what will it split it by. So here we want to split by hash. So by default it splits by white space characters like space or /n or /t, like new line or tab character, but we can specify if we want to some specific character or even some sequence. If you want to like say for example split by this sequence, something like this, then we can just specify it like this. Okay, so we want to split it like this, and now you can see that L is our desired input. But yeah, according to the question, so if we just have to like this, then we'll just split it with hash characters, and we'll get the same thing basically. Okay, so now that we have this, then now we can just sort L dot sort, and what this will do is yeah, it will just sort it, but we want to do it in reverse order. So there is this parameter called reverse, and we'll do it reverse equals to true, and then we'll print L. Okay, so let's see the results. So now you can see we have input hey and by. So this is the reverse alphabetical order, and that is also. So the key part here is this split. So you must know how to split it, split any strings. Okay, this is also very handy when you are say reading from a file, and then suppose you want to quickly split the lines. You can obviously use split lines. There is a command called split lines, or you can use split and then /n. Okay, Any doubts about this program? Okay, then let's go to the next question. I think yeah, this is the last question for today and for the course. Yeah, so suppose we have a student's roll number in the following format, or say the email ID in the following format, say roll number @ institute.edu.in. So write a program to find the roll number and institute name of the student. Okay, so we can do it in multiple ways, obviously. So we'll first look at the easier way, and then we'll look at some regular expressions to do it, to match it. Okay, so suppose we have this as the input. Let's call it email equals to this. Okay, so what we can do manually is we can search for an @ sign, and then take everything before that, and then we can take everything after the @ sign up till the first dot. Okay, let us just assume that the format will be correct, like no one will give something like .edu or something like edu.institute.in. Let's just assume that there will be a @ sign and stuff. Okay, so yeah, so yeah, to do it in a manual way, first we'll just search for this @ sign. So how do we do that? We'll just use, I think, find or index or find, I forgot. Find, yes. So we'll find an @, and what this will give us is an index, idx. Okay, let's see what this index is. So you can see it is 4. So if you count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we are getting the index of this, and if there is no @ sign, then I think it will return an error. Oh no, it returns, I think, -1 then, idx. Okay, yeah. So yeah, if you want to be thorough in your code, if you want to check if the format is correct, then you need to check something like let's just do it. If idx not equals to -1, because if it is equals to -1, then it is wrong. Or let's just say equals to -1, then something like print wrong format, something like this, and then we can exit. Okay, exit means exit from the code directly. And so now that we have the @, we also need to find the first dot. Okay, first dot after first dot after that sign. So it can be, roll number can be in the format, say something like something like this. Okay, so we want to find the dot after the @. So how do we do that? Okay, let's just call it @idx of @. Okay, and idx of dot or dt equals to email.find. Again, we'll find the dot, but which dot shall we look for? We shall look for the one which is after this index @. So we can specify, as you can see here, it's already showing the doc string. So we can specify a start position. So the start position will be this. Okay, idx80. We can do +1 also, does not matter much, because we know that this is a @ sign only. It will not be a dot. So if we take a look or take a see what this value is, idx_dt. So you can see it is 19. So I think hopefully this is 19. Okay, and so if you want to check it again, if you want to check if the format is correct or not, we can obviously we'll just check this again, or we can just use assert. So it's the same thing as before, but I'll just use assert now. Same thing as this, but assert that idx dt not equals to -1. Okay, and if it is, then we can just print wrong format. Okay, so let's just copy paste this for to make it shorter. Okay, so this is just checking if the given format of the email is correct or not. Okay, and yeah, that's it. And if you want to be even thorough, then we can check if it ends with .edu.in, like anything after this dot is .edu.in. So we can do another check, like assert email, everything that comes idx dt +1, everything that comes after this equals to edu.in. Okay, and if it is not, then we can just do wrong format again. Okay, so we have some checks. If we run it, there are no errors because it's in the correct format. So now that we have it, now we can finally we can print the name and the roll number and the institute. So the roll number will be email up to this idx80 before the @ sign, idx80, right? And the and the institute name will be after the @ sign, but till the dot. So this will be idx80 +1, like +1. Yes, we are starting from the next character, and then we'll go up to idx dt, like till the dot. Okay, and if we print this, we can, I think, finally, yeah, so we have this. Okay, so any doubts about this? So this is if you want to do it simple way. Now we shall also look at how to do it using regular expressions. Okay, so yeah, nothing too difficult about this. Just we need to we need to just keep in mind what we are finding and what can be the errors in formats, and yeah, we just do this assert. So if we don't give a @ sign, then it will show you wrong format. Okay, something like this. Okay, now to use say regular expressions, if you want to use regular expressions to do this. So I also don't remember exactly, so I might need to look at the documentations. So let's so if you just Google Python regex, so regex stands for regular expressions. So this is Python's own website with their like description of their all the libraries. So we have this regex thing. So we looked at regex a little bit in one of the previous sessions, but here we shall look at it a little bit more. So yeah, so what we want to do is, first we want to obviously see if the email is in correct format or not, and then we want to extract the roll number and the email as the institutes. Okay, so let's start doing. If I need it, then I'll go back. Okay, so regular expressions, we can just regular expressions are just like, you know, a pattern. You are just telling that this is the format that the email should be. So what is the format our email should be? So our format is something like, let's call it so R stands for raw, like raw string. So whatever is inside, you can use it as a, yeah, like there will be no formatting inside the string. So a regular expression is often like started with an R. Okay, so a regular expression of an email will look something like, so we'll have something dot star. So what dot star means is dot means anything, like it will match with anything, not this dot. This does not mean this full stop. This dot means, in regular expression terms, dot means anything, and star means like as many times as possible. And then we'll have an @ sign. Okay, then we'll have again anything, and then we'll have a dot edu dot in, right? So we'll do that with dot edu dot dot in. Okay, so this is our format of the email. I think you can understand. So this part is for the roll number, this part is for the institute, and then dot edu dot in. So slash dot is for the actual dot. Okay, so to check I think what was the checking function, I forgot, but yeah, we have the matching function. I think we have to use match only. Match. Okay, so you can see this there are these two functions, search versus match. So what match does is it basically matches a regular expression to a given string, and you can also have you can also directly extract out the stuff from inside. So what we can do is, so we want to extract out these two parts, right? This is the first part we want to extract, and this is the second part we want to extract, right? So we'll just enclose it inside parenthesis. So that means we want to extract this one group. Okay, so if we do matches equals to re dot match, so we have this regular expression, and then we have the email ID. Okay, so in that case, if we run it, we'll see what do we get. Matches. So yeah, so you can see that there are there should have been 2 matches. Okay, there, yeah, it's matching the entire thing. And then yeah, so as you can see, so matches is like it's a matches object. So the first element of this output, this list, is the entire thing that matched, right? So the entire email, it could match, so it has matched with this. And the first item, or like the second item, is the first group, which is inside the first parenthesis, which is before the @ sign, which is our institute. And then which this is our like second part, which is the institute name. Okay, and yeah, so to check if our email is valid or not, so if our email was not valid, then let's see what do we get. Then we get no errors, but if we look at matches, then we see that like matches is nothing, matches is just empty, there is nothing in there. Okay, or if there was something else over here, then also we would get a match, I think, but there would be something extra. Matches is here, and you can see it has matched this email part up to in, but there are 2 extra A's. It has not considered that part. The rest of it is okay. So we need to take get 2 checks. So one thing is assert that matches is not none, like matches has something. Okay, so we can just write assert matches, and that matches 0 is same as the email basically, so it has matched the entire thing. Okay, and if not, then we can just say wrong format again. Okay, and then if we have everything okay, then we can just print matches 0 not 0, 1, and matches 2. Okay. Oh, okay, yeah, so now it shows wrong format because we have these extra 2 A's over here. Let's remove those, and now run it, and you can see that we have the roll number and the institute name. Okay, so yeah, again, this is not enough to learn regex. Obviously, regex is very powerful tool, and you should explore. This is just kind of a introduction. So we can obviously do some checking ourselves. We can find the index, where is the at the red sign, where is the dot sign, is it in the correct spot. We can do it like this, or we can just do like 1 or 2 lines. Okay, in 2 lines we can just do some matching. That's the power of regex. We are just specifying that there will be something, then an at the red sign, there will be another something, then there will be dot edu.in. Okay, we are just specifying the format directly. And this is how actually, if you when you're typing an email in Gmail, like in Gmail, when you're typing an email address, if you don't type it correctly, it will show you that it is not a valid email. So uh, but if you type some wrong email also, but like at the rate abc.def, then also it will not show any errors. But if you don't give the correct format, then it will show in Gmail that it is wrong. So actually Gmail also uses some regular expressions like this to check the email. So it cannot check if the actual email is valid or not, but it can check if the format is correct. Okay, any questions about this one or the previous one? Okay, so you can ask me. So this was the last question for today and for this course. So if you have any questions uh, about what we solved today, or Python in general, any previous program, any other programs, if you have any doubts, I'll be here for 5-10 more minutes. You can ask me. Okay, I'll stop the recording.